Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is a little different, but I think incredibly useful for you. Instead of just digging into the insights from a topic, we're actually going to do a deep dive into the language itself, the specific words and phrases used in the narrative source material you've given us. Think of it like a shortcut. You don't just get the story, you get a serious boost to your practical English. We're talking vocabulary, idioms, common phrases. We'll look at how they're used, in context, give you examples, and even touch on some of the cultural stuff behind them. Really give you tools you can use.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is just how much useful language is packed into everyday conversations, even fictional ones like these. We'll be working with this really rich text, and our goal is to pinpoint those little nuggets, those phrases that give you those aha moments, and like you said, tangible tools for expressing yourself.
Okay, let's dive straight in then. So this source material, it gives us these glimpses into the lives of several characters, right?
Yeah.
And they're facing all sorts of challenges. We've got secrets, legal problems, marriage issues, even just the chaos of raising kids. And as we look at their situations, we're going to zero in on some key expressions.
Exactly. We'll see how they talk about being stressed out, how they describe difficult people, how they handle tricky social stuff, even how they deal with legal battles. And all of it uses language that's really relevant for your own, real world English communication. It's like a master class hidden in a story.
Right. So the characters often get pushed to their limits, which leads to some very relatable ways of expressing frustration. Let's take Zach's mother. She's under immense stress and pleads, "If I don't get help, I will lose my mind." Now, what does it really mean when someone says they're about to lose their mind?
Well, it's more than just saying I'm stressed, isn't it? Lose my mind is such a common, very informal way to express that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, extreme exasperation. It's not literal, obviously, but it captures that feeling perfectly. Like you're right on the edge, your sanity is just slipping. It tells you immediately that person feels like they're at a breaking point.
Yeah, that breaking point feeling. And sometimes other people can push us towards that feeling. The narrative gives us Maisie Gibbons, described really bluntly as, "She's a nightmare."
What makes calling someone a nightmare so potent in English? It's more than just difficult, right?
Oh, definitely. That's a great point. Nightmare carries a lot of weight.
Mm.
It's not just a casual insult. It evokes this sense of dread, maybe even helplessness. It suggests a person or situation so overwhelming that they just drain your mental energy. You just want to escape them, like waking up from a bad dream. It's usually reserved for experiences or people who have a really profound negative impact. When you hear it, you know it's serious. It certainly paints a vivid picture. Okay, shifting a bit to interpersonal stuff. We hear Rex tell Bree, "You're not getting something you're afraid to ask." This one feels familiar. What's the friction this phrase points to?
It really captures a common breakdown in communication, doesn't it? That phrase describes this dynamic where someone's needs or desires, they just go unmet because they hesitate. They're afraid to just ask directly. It highlights that tension that builds up from unspoken expectations, and that can lead to resentment or misunderstanding down the line. It's about the cost of not speaking up.
Hmm. And Maisie Gibbons, she's also described as someone who loves to rule her kingdom. What does that idiom tell us about her need for control?
To rule her kingdom, that's a fantastic idiom. It paints a picture of someone who's dominant, totally in charge of their environment, their domain. It suggests someone powerful who sets the terms, whose word is basically law in that space, whether that kingdom is a home, an office, or, well, in Maisie's case, her unique line of work. It really speaks of a deep need for authority.
And speaking of control, or maybe just getting things done nicely, we hear this very polite request. "Would you be a lamb and go out the back?" What's the appeal of asking someone to be a lamb? It sounds so gentle.
It is. It's incredibly polite, almost disarmingly so. Using lamb isn't just about sweetness. It subtly appeals to that instinct for innocence, for cooperation. While it sounds endearing, it also implies a kind of gentle guiding of the other person. That's probably why it works so well with kids, or when you just need someone to cooperate without making it feel like a demand. It's charming.
Okay, let's talk secrets. They're a huge part of the story, especially with Maisie's little hobby. And secrets often bring that uncomfortable feeling of being judged, maybe pitied. We get some really subtle social stuff here. One character observes a friend and says, "I saw her get that look in her eye," that look of pity. What does "get that look in her eye" signal, especially when it's about pity?
Get that look in her eye. It's such a vivid phrase. It signals a specific nonverbal cue you recognize, right? Something that reveals a hidden thought or emotion. And when you pair it with pity, it conveys that mix of sorrow, maybe compassion for someone's misfortune. But as the source shows, pity can feel incredibly demeaning. It can feel like the person looking at you thinks you're, well, like the next phrase suggests, so far gone, you're never coming back.
Wow, yes, so far gone, you're never coming back. That phrase hits hard. It really suggests there's no hope. But is there also a bit of cynicism in that? Maybe even judgment from the person saying it?
That's a very sharp observation, yes. While it definitely conveys hopelessness from the observer's point of view, this belief that recovery is impossible, you're absolutely right. It often carries a heavy dose of judgment, almost a dismissal. It implies the observer has basically given up on the person, seeing them as beyond help. So, yeah, it doesn't leave much room for redemption in their eyes, whatever the reality might be.
Right. Now, in a much simpler moment, maybe understanding, maybe acknowledging being caught out, someone just says, gotcha. What makes gotcha so useful and informal?
Gotcha is wonderfully versatile, isn't it? Because it's so short and punchy. Informally, it just means I understand, or I see your point, a quick confirmation. But it can also mean, like it might hear, okay, you got me, or I acknowledge you outsmarted me, or I understand the trick now. It's a quick, often playful admission.
And Maisie describes her secret activities as absolutely exhilarating. That's really strong language for something hidden. What does absolutely exhilarating reveal about her?
It is strong vocabulary. Absolutely exhilarating goes way beyond just exciting. It conveys this intense, almost overwhelming thrill and joy. For Maisie, it suggests this profound rush she gets from the risk, from the secrecy itself. It hints at a deep, maybe even addictive pleasure that's more than just simple fun. It's about a real emotional charge.
Okay. Later, things get heated. Bree confronts Maisie, saying, "You are pretty brazen for a woman who just admitted, however tacitly, that she just slept with my husband." Wow. Let's unpack brazen and tacitly there.
Yeah, that's a fiery exchange. Brazen describes someone who is bold, shameless, often shockingly defiant. It implies a total lack of modesty or concern for what others think, almost a deliberate provocation. And tacitly, that's crucial vocabulary. It means something is understood or implied without being said directly. So in this context, Bree is pointing out Maisie's subtle yet undeniable admission the truth came through actions or silence, not words. The combination shows Bree recognizing both Maisie's defiant attitude and her unspoken confession.
And then Bree delivers this final, really cutting line, "I don't hate you, Maisie. I pity you." We talked about pity before, but why is saying "I pity you" so devastating here?
Oh, this is just a masterclass in, well, emotional warfare, isn't it? I pity you. Delivered like this, it does convey sorrow, yes, but it's dripping with superiority, disdain even. It's not genuine sympathy. It's Bree asserting her moral high ground. It's basically saying, you're so pathetic, so beneath me, I won't even give you the dignity of hating you. It's designed to humiliate, to disempower completely.
Ooh. Okay, let's shift gears to Carlos Solis and his legal troubles. This part of the story is just packed with legal terms, stuff you'd hear discussing arrests or finances. So for you listening, what do these core legal terms immediately tell us about how serious things are for Carlos? We hear, "I have a warrant for your arrest," and later, "Your client is denied bail and remanded."
Right. These phrases paint an instant, pretty grim picture. His freedom is seriously restricted. A warrant for your arrest is the official okay for the police to grab someone. It's serious. Then, if you're denied bail, the court thinks you might flee or you're a danger, so you can't pay to get out before the trial. And remanded just means you're sent straight back to custody, usually jail. These aren't minor things. It's a major loss of liberty.
And Carlos's lawyer makes a point of saying his client is the sole provider for his family. Why is that phrase strategically important in court?
Sole provider. That means the only person earning money for the household. Bringing that up in court is a common tactic. It highlights the devastating financial impact locking him up would have on his family, who are innocent in this. It appeals to the court's compassion, potentially influencing decisions about bail or even sentencing. It makes the human cost very clear.
And we get that classic, almost funny line from the prosecutor, right? "Dog ate your client's passport, Mr. Hartley." It's such a terrible excuse, but why is it so universally understood as sarcastic? What's the history there?
Huh. Yes, it's funny because it's so obviously unbelievable, isn't it? That phrase, "dog ate your client's passport," it instantly tells you the speaker thinks the excuse is just a blatant, almost childish lie. Its power comes from that shared cultural thing, the dog ate my homework trope. Everyone recognizes it as code for a really, really bad excuse. So it immediately signals disbelief, skepticism from the prosecutor.
Yeah, you know exactly what they mean. The situation gets worse, though. There's talk of Mr. Tanaka still being at large and the authorities wanting Carlos to flip on him. What do those phrases mean in a crime context?
Okay, at large is a standard legal term. It just means the person hasn't been caught yet, they're still free, and the police are looking for them. And flip on him, that's informal but very common. It means to betray someone, usually an accomplice, by giving incriminating information to the police or prosecutors, often hoping for a better deal for yourself, like a lighter sentence. It shows the kind of pressure Carlos is under.
And this pressure, this tactic from the authorities, is described as them playing hardball. What's playing hardball tell us about their approach?
Playing hardball, great idiom. It means acting tough, aggressively, not willing to compromise easily to get what you want in a negotiation or fight. It signals they're serious, using tough tactics, and they're determined to win, however difficult they make it for the other side. No more Mr. Nice Guy, basically.
And it's not just legal trouble, it's money trouble, too. The government is mentioned as being after ill-gotten gains. What exactly falls under ill-gotten gains?
Ill-gotten gains, it's a pretty clear term. It just refers to money or property that was acquired illegally or dishonestly. It specifically flags wealth as having come from crime, emphasizing its unlawful source.
Gabrielle, facing losing her stuff, declares, "I have dug myself up from dirt to afford these things." That image, dug myself up from dirt, is so vivid.
Wait.
What does it tell us about her past and her grit?
Oh, that's such a powerful image, isn't it? Dug myself up from dirt. It's a potent idiom. It means you've risen from really humble, maybe impoverished, difficult beginnings to achieve success. It instantly tells you someone came from basically nothing, pulled themselves out of serious hardship, usually through sheer hard work and determination. It speaks volumes about resilience, about being self-made.
Absolutely. And then, as they're scrambling to find Carlos's passport, there's this informal request to scare up that passport. What does scare up imply about finding something?
Scare up, yeah, that's a great informal one. It means to find or produce something, but with difficulty, often unexpectedly or from somewhere unlikely. It implies a frantic search, a real scramble to locate something important, maybe something that isn't easy to find. It suggests resourcefulness born out of urgency.
And finally, as Gabrielle tries to hide her valuable things, she asks to store some odds and ends in a friend's garage. Simple phrase, but what does odds and ends actually cover?
Odds and ends. It just refers to small, miscellaneous items. Leftovers, perhaps. It's a very common, casual way to talk about various small possessions that maybe don't fit a category or aren't super valuable on their own, but you still want to keep them. You know, that collection of miscellaneous stuff everyone has somewhere.
Right, the stuff in the junk drawer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move into relationships. Now always messy, as we see with Rex and Bree and Julie and her mom. These interactions give us some great everyday expressions about talking, trust, even humor. Lynette, struggling with her kids, says her boys are in rare form. What does in rare form actually signal about how someone's behaving?
In rare form is interesting because its meaning really depends on context. It describes someone behaving unusually for them, sometimes unusually good, but often, especially with kids, it means unusually bad, energetic, or mischievous. So when Lynette says her boys are in rare form, you can bet they're being particularly wild or difficult. It always signals behavior that's definitely outside the norm for them.
Got it. Lynette also mentions her publisher has her under the gun. A feeling many of us know. What does under the gun convey so effectively?
Under the gun is a perfect idiom for feeling intense pressure. Usually because of a deadline breathing down your neck, it vividly paints that picture of stress and urgency, like there's literally a gun forcing you to act immediately. It implies high stakes and not much time.
Yeah, definitely captures that feeling. Now, when Bree confronts Rex about dating, he says he's just exploring options. That sounds a bit cold, doesn't it? What does exploring options signal in a relationship context?
It does sound detached, and that's often the point. Exploring options is a common phrase, often used neutrally or even clinically, especially when talking about dating after separation. It's a way to frame considering different possibilities without sounding too harsh or emotionally direct. It gives it the sort of business-like, impersonal feel, maybe to soften the blow or just avoid a messy emotional conversation.
And Bree's response is just perfect, cutting right through that. Options. I'm not a mutual fund, Rex. What makes that such a smart, sarcastic comeback?
Oh, it's brilliant. I'm not a mutual fund is such a clever way to object to being treated impersonally, like you're just one choice in a portfolio of investments. It brilliantly uses financial jargon to make a very personal point. She's feeling dehumanized, objectified. She's demanding to be seen as a person, not just another option.
Absolutely. Later, talking about whether Rex might move back home, Bree calls the situation fluid. How does fluid work to describe uncertainty?
Using fluid here is a great choice. It describes a situation that's unstable, changeable, not yet fixed or settled. It perfectly conveys that uncertainty, that lack of a definite resolution. It implies things are still very much up in the air and could easily shift one way or another.
And the question comes up, is he back for good?
Yeah.
Simple phrase, but what does that for good really add?
Back for good. Yeah, simple but crucial. It means returning permanently, definitively. That little phrase, for good, transforms it from maybe just a visit or a temporary stay into something lasting. It removes ambiguity. Are you staying or not? It demands that clarity.
Right. Now, Lynette thinks about installing a nanny cam, but worries it'd be a breach of trust. Edie's advice. Trust is overrated. Big difference in perspective there.
Huge difference. A breach of trust is a serious thing. It means failing to uphold a promise or duty, violating that fundamental bond of honesty and reliance you expect in a relationship. Edie's line, trust is overrated, is pure cynicism. It suggests trust isn't as important or valuable as people think, probably based on her own bad experiences. It's a guarded, skeptical view versus an ideal of how relationships should work.
Okay, a lighter one. Lynette finds out Claire was out getting the boys wired on ice cream. What picture does wired on ice cream create?
Yeah, wired on ice cream, instantly relatable, right? It's informal slang for someone, usually a kid, being super hyperactive and energetic because of a sugar rush. You immediately picture kids bouncing off the walls, chattering nonstop, just full of that slightly manic energy.
And then, playing on that word wired, Lynette later did some wiring of her own. That sounds like a deliberate play on words.
It definitely is a clever pun. So wiring literally means she's installing the camera, doing electrical wiring work. But it also playfully hints she's kind of wiring things herself, making connections, setting up a situation to observe and uncover secrets, running her own little operation. It shows some real linguistic wit.
Lynette also uses that playful compliment, you sly dog. What does calling someone a sly dog imply?
You sly dog. It's usually playful, often said with admiration or amusement. It means someone is clever, maybe a bit cunning or mischievous, but in an endearing way. It acknowledges their shrewdness or trickery, but typically with a smile. It's lighthearted.
And when Edie talks about her childhood nanny, she decides it was the lesser of two evils. That's a common way we frame decisions, isn't it?
Very common, yes. Lesser of two evils is an idiom we use all the time. It refers to choosing between two bad options, picking the one that's slightly less terrible than the other. It's a standard decision-making framework when all your choices are unpleasant or flawed, and you're just trying to minimize the damage or pick the least bad outcome.
Mike describes Zach as a little squirrely, but he seems like a good kid. What does squirrely tell us about Zach's behavior?
Squirrely, it's a great informal adjective. It describes someone who's maybe a bit erratic, fidgety, maybe unpredictable or odd in their movements or mannerisms. It paints this picture of someone potentially nervous, agitated, maybe a bit shifty or restless, like a squirrel.
And when Susan describes the plumber Mike, she says he's got a smile that's to die for. What impact does adding to die for have?
A smile that's to die for. That to die for part is pure hyperbole, dramatic exaggeration. It means the smile is extremely charming, attractive, incredibly desirable. It's used to express intense admiration or desire for something, making it sound exceptionally good, totally captivating.
She then adds, and don't get me started on his tattoo. That phrase, don't get me started, what's it really signaling?
Don't get me started is a classic. It signals that the speaker has a lot to say about that topic, usually strong opinions, positive or negative, and they could talk about it for ages. It's like a playful warning. If you open this door, I won't stop talking, implying a wealth of thoughts or feelings just waiting to pour out. Best not to go down that road right now.
Right. And finally, Zach talks about intrusive thoughts, saying, these images just keep popping into my head, and gets advice to find a way to push them back out again. Very vivid ways to talk about the mind.
They really are vivid. Popping into my head perfectly captures that spontaneous, uncontrolled feeling thoughts just appearing, often unwanted. And push them back out again conveys the active struggle, the mental effort needed to suppress or banish those thoughts to try and regain control. It highlights that internal battle we sometimes have.
Wow. What an incredible journey, really, through the language used in this story. We've pulled out so many genuinely useful phrases, idioms, bits of vocabulary, and these aren't just for understanding these characters, are they? They're things you can use to enrich your own conversations, your own understanding of English. These are keys, really.
Absolutely. This deep dive really underscores how these specific word choices, these idioms, these ways of phrasing things, let us convey so much more deeper meaning, emotion, cultural nuances than just a literal explanation ever could. And that brings us to a final thought for you. How might paying closer attention to these kinds of linguistic nuggets, these little gems of language in the content you consume, TV, books, podcasts, conversations, how might that change your understanding, not just of the content, but maybe of the world around you, and maybe even improve how you connect with others? Something to think about.